Come here, Iris. Oh, hello there. YouTube Game Birthday Boy here, back at it again with another banger and trying to get my cat to come over so you guys can look at her. So in my recent video about learning to code, somebody left this exact comment and it really inspired me for a video.
Step on it, Daddy!
Don't ever compare open source software to socialism or communism. One has consent to share it, the other is forced, one is charity, the other at gunpoint. And first off, I was thinking about basically this script for a while now, and I think that this was the perfect opportunity for me to use it. And second off, I can understand why this person feels that way, especially if they grew up during the post-Cold War era when they were told that basically anything and everything communism or socialism is inherently bad, especially in a capitalist society. But here is the thing. Our commenter isn't really the first person to really make this connection. Bill Gates has literally suggested that free software developers are communists. Microsoft's former CEO Steve Ballmer called the open source operating system Linux a quote-unquote a cancer. SAP's Shai Agassi referred to open source software, so the question isn't whether open source has socialist characteristics. Even billionaire capitalists recognize that it does. The question is whether that's actually a bad thing and what it tells us about how cooperation really works in the world that our kids are going to be inheriting. So when Ballmer calls Linux a cancer, he's not wrong about it being different. He's just telling on himself about what threatens him. These billionaires built fortunes on controlling software. Then along comes this collaborative model that works better than their proprietary alternatives and gives it away for free. The same people calling cooperation dangerous, they're running their companies on Linux servers. They contribute to open source projects when it benefits them. Hell, EA just used Godot, a completely free open source game engine that is built by volunteers around the world, and they are using it in their newest Battlefield game. Think about that. Game engines are like the invisible foundation that everything else builds on. They normally cost companies hundreds of thousands of dollars in licensing fees, but volunteers built something so good that a multi-billion-dollar corpo chose it over their expensive alternatives. And as someone who is using Godot to build applications and eventually to start building my own games, I firsthand know how this volunteer-built tool compares to the expensive options. Seeing it power a massive AAA game, I mean, that's just proof that cooperation doesn't work, but it works better. This isn't about just games, it's proof that every industry faces this choice between cooperation and control. This battle affects every platform that you use, every device in your home, and every app your kids interact with. So let's start with something that even Bill Gates can't call dangerous, and trace how these radical principles already work in your daily life. We're going to take each line of this comment and see if it holds up to the scrutiny of facts and logic. So let's start with something that is completely uncontroversial here, your local library. So when my kids ask me why they don't have to pay for books at the local library, I tell them it's because our community decided that knowledge should be freely available to everyone. The library is what economists call collective ownership, and before you click away, just hear me out for a minute. The community owns the books, the buildings, the computers, and everyone contributes through taxes. Everyone benefits. Nobody's checking your income before you borrow that Stephen King novel. No means testing, no proving you deserve to read. You just walk in and take what you need. This is exactly what Richard Stallman meant when he founded the Free Software Foundation. Software should be, quote unquote, free like free speech, not free beer. Back in 1983, Stallman looked at how software companies were starting to restrict sharing and said no distributor will be allowed to restrict further redistribution. He was creating what researchers call a commons, a shared space that nobody owns privately. Now, let's talk about Stack Overflow. If you've ever tried to debug code or learn programming, you've probably used it. It's a platform where millions of programmers help strangers solve technical problems. No payment, no contracts, no coercion.
socialism, just people sharing knowledge because they want to. And this is what is called a gift economy. But don't let the fancy term fool you, it's just people competing for respect by giving their expertise away rather than hoarding it for profit. The motivation isn't pure altruism, it's enlightened self-interest. So when everyone shares knowledge freely, everyone benefits from a larger pool of solutions. And I mean, I've seen this firsthand in maker spaces that I've been a part of. People spend hours teaching strangers how to use 3D printers. They share design files. They troubleshoot each other's projects. Nobody's forcing them to help. They do it because it feels good and because they know that they'll benefit when others share back. My favorite example from my own life, I spent years 3D printing miniatures and toys for my kids. Once I had the printer set up, printing extra copies cost almost nothing, just a few cents in plastic filament. I started giving these extra little doodads away to friends and, their kids and stuff like that. Not because I'm some saint, but because it felt good to see kids light up when you hand them a perfect replica of their favorite little Pokemon or what have you. And here's what's kind of wild about this. This idea can actually be exemplified with what is called the RepRap project, and it was designed to create wealth without money through self-replicating machines. These are 3D printers that can print parts for more 3D printers. The meme has finally come full circle. The entire community operates on free sharing of design files, modifications, and improvements. On 3D model website Thingiverse, nearly 90% of the designs are using Creative Commons licenses. People are choosing to share their work for free. And during COVID, the sharing saved lives. When hospitals were running out of face shields and ventilator parts, 3D printing communities around the world mobilized overnight. Designers shared blueprints freely, and people with printers made medical equipment for healthcare workers. This was all based on the principle of from each according to their ability to each according to their need. Nobody forced anyone to participate, no government mandate. People saw a need and organized collectively to meet it. That's what humans do when artificial scarcity isn't imposed by property laws.
So when our commenter says that one is consent, yes, they are completely right about socialism, but here's the thing. It's collective ownership and participation in creating shared resources. So I guess another bridge we need to cross is if cooperation and resource sharing defines socialism, what exactly is forced here? So I guess let's talk about that. The real divide is never really been between left and right. It's always been between freedom and authoritarianism and between voluntary cooperation and coercion. Like comparing my PPE example from earlier, let's compare that to how capitalism actually works in practice. You need a job to survive, but someone else owns the workplace, the tools, and the products of your labor. Most people work not because they freely choose their employment conditions, but because the alternative is homelessness and starvation. That's not exactly voluntary either. The early internet itself was built on voluntary socialist principles that I've experienced firsthand. Berkeley's Unix culture of the 1970s and 80s showed collective ownership in practice. Bill Joy deliberately chose to share improvements rather than create proprietary versions. The entire internet infrastructure runs on freely shared protocols and open standards that nobody owns. Even today, when communities try to create mesh networks or municipal broadband to provide free internet access, they face legal challenges from telecom companies using government force to protect their monopolies. So what's really being forced here? In my experience working in tech, the only thing being forced is artificial scarcity. Copyright and patent laws literally use government force to prevent people from sharing knowledge and tools. The force isn't coming from people who want to share, it's coming from the systems that try to stop them. Real cooperative organizing looks like this. Alcoholics Anonymous makes every participant a protagonist. The people with the problem are themselves the solution. No central authority, no coercion, just people working together to solve shared problems. So when people talk about socialist systems requiring force, I think that's where two things kind of get confused and conflated, and that is political systems and economic systems. And this is where the whole thing about one being charity comes into play. Like when most people think about charity, they think about basically helping others during a need of crisis. crisis, but that is actually mutual aid. So let's go ahead and talk about the very distinct difference between charity and mutual aid.
Now, let's tackle this idea that open source is just charity. So here's where a commenter makes a crucial error that reveals that they don't really understand how these systems actually work. There's a big difference between charity and what people actually do, helping each other. Charity flows from those with resources to those without, usually with conditions attached. Mutual aid is people solving problems together. When I was printing toys for kids, this wasn't charity, it was community building. I printed out the equivalent of a small starter army of like Warhammer figurines for one of my kids' friends' parents' birthday parties that we went to, just because, well, first off, I wanted someone to play Warhammer with, but second off, just because he expressed interest in that and I had the means and the ability to help get him started. And I figured, why not? Why wouldn't I? Because to me, it just makes sense. The open source community operates very much the same way. When you contribute code to a project, you're not being charitable, you're participating in a shared enterprise where everyone benefits. Look at how Wikipedia works. It's not charity, it's cooperation where people contribute articles, others edit and fact check, and everyone gets access to the world's largest encyclopedia for free. The result itself is better than Encyclopedia Britannica ever was, and it was created through cooperation rather than market incentives. Communities organize mutual aid networks. They don't consider themselves charity organizations. They are member-led, member-organized, and open to all to participate in. People control their own resources and make decisions collectively about how to help each other. The idea isn't to establish a market where people trade volunteer services, it's to create a space where everyone can meet their needs without keeping score. When people have the freedom to do what they love most rather than being forced to do certain types of labor that they hate just to survive, it takes a lot less to feel prosperous. The key insight here, what our commenter calls charity, is actually just mutual aid. It's a fundamentally different relationship where people solve problems together rather than for each other. And mutual aid has always been a core principle of both successful tech communities and socialist organizing. For more information about this, watch my Death Stranding video.
So, in my opinion, I think this is really the core of what the commenter is afraid of. We have all heard stories about authoritarian regimes that are speaking socialist ideas and socialist principles and talking about doing things for the working class and for the people and all that. But as someone who is watching this all happen in real time, and you are all watching this happen in real time too, here's something that I want you to think about. The gun isn't being pointed by those who are trying to cooperate, is being pointed at those who are trying to cooperate. Our commenter says that socialism happens at gunpoint, so let's really talk about who's holding the guns here. So let's briefly go over 3 stories of 3 different individuals who try to share information to the public, information that they are owed, and they got punished for it. So first, Edward Snowden was a government contractor who discovered that the NSA was collecting massive amounts of data on American citizens without warrants. He tried going through proper channels first, but nothing happened. So in 2013, he leaked documents showing the scope of government surveillance to journalists. What did he reveal? That the government was secretly monitoring your phone calls, your emails, your internet activity, basically building a profile of every American citizen without their knowledge or consent. Every time you get a targeted ad that knows too much about you, that's part of the surveillance infrastructure that Snowden exposed. And what happened to him? He had to flee the country and now lives in exile in Russia. If he comes back to the United States, he faces decades in prison under the Espionage Act. The same law designed to stop people from helping foreign enemies is being used against someone who told Americans about their own government spying on them. And I bet he's probably pissed about the existence of a Palantir now. Next up, we have Reality Winner. Yes, that was actually her name. She was a 25-year-old Air Force veteran working as an NSA contractor in 2017. Oh my god, there's a trend here. She discovered a classified report showing that Russian military intelligence had tried to hack at least one electronic voting software company. They had sent attacks to more than 100 local election officials just days before the 2016 election. So think about that for a moment. A foreign adversary was actively attacking the infrastructure of American democracy.
And this information was classified, hidden from the very voters whose elections were being targeted. So Winner leaked this single document to The Intercept because she believed Americans deserved to know that their elections were under attack. She wasn't selling secrets to enemies to try to harm or impact national security. She was trying to protect democracy itself. What was the result of that? Well, she got 63 months in prison, which was the longest sentence ever imposed for leaking classified information to the media. She spent over 4 years behind bars, including time in solitary confinement for revealing that Russia was attacking American elections. So just let that sink in for a second. The person who warned us about foreign election interference got punished more harshly than most of the people who actually interfered with elections. She got punished more harshly and spent more time in jail than Ghislaine Maxwell. Let's just put that out there. And finally, we have Aaron Swartz, who was one of the original co-founders of Reddit.com. This was back when it was user-driven communities instead of the corporate-controlled platform it became after being bought and sold multiple times. See my video about the history of Reddit. He was also a programmer who believed, like the internet's founders, that information should be freely shared. So in 2010, Swartz downloaded millions of academic papers from JSTOR, and these papers consisted of research that was largely funded by taxpayer dollars, but locked behind paywalls that made it inaccessible to most people. His plan was to make this publicly funded research freely available to the public that paid for it. This wasn't just some random act. Aaron was following the same principles that built the entire internet itself. That knowledge becomes more valuable when it's shared freely, not when it's hoarded behind artificial scarcity. The same principle that created Wikipedia, that powers open source software, that makes Stack Overflow work. It's all right here. And the government came down on him with everything they had. Federal prosecutors charged him with multiple felonies and threatened him with 35 years in prison and millions in fines for downloading academic papers that were already available to anyone with access to a university library, which is not everyone. And this pressure was so overwhelming that Aaron Swartz ended up taking his own life in 2013 at the age of 26. Like, the dude was my age, facing a mountain of federal charges for trying to practice the same information sharing principles that made sites like Reddit.com possible.
So to me, this pattern is pretty clear. We have 3 people in 3 different domains with the common goal of trying to share public information that they felt like the public was owed. We have public surveillance, election interference, and just general taxpayer-funded knowledge. And what happened to all 3 of these people? They felt the full retaliation of the United States government, and their lives were changed forever. One person lives in exile, one person spent 4 years in prison, and one person is unfortunately not here anymore. And in my opinion, the responses are going to escalate from here. They can only escalate from here. So when our commenter says that socialism is happening at gunpoint, yeah, you know what? They're absolutely right, but they also have it completely backwards. The guns aren't being held by those that are trying to cooperate and share and build community. They're being used to perpetuate artificial scarcity, corporate profits, and government surveillance. Like, the call's coming from inside the goddamn house here at this point.
The collaborative technologies that you use every day, from the Linux kernel running your Android phone to the internet protocols that enable this video to reach you, they were created through people working together, sharing resources and building tools for the common good without seeking private profit. Libraries aren't charity, they're collective ownership of knowledge. Stack Overflow isn't charity, it's mutual aid among programmers. The 3D printing community sharing designs during COVID wasn't charity, it was from each according to their ability ability to each according to their need in action. What one would call socialism at gunpoint isn't socialism at all. It's authoritarianism using socialist language to justify control. The difference between cooperation and forced redistribution isn't capitalism versus socialism, it is cooperation versus control. And here's what really kind of gets me fired up about this as a parent, and the whole reason I made this video. Your kids are growing up in a world where the most powerful tools and useful knowledge are created through cooperation. I've been quoting Marx the whole time when I say from each according to their ability to each according to their need. Anytime that they use basically any piece of technology or go to the library or ride the school bus, or if they qualify for the free school lunches, that is socialism, but is at the same time just taking care of people. Believe it or not, children intuitively understand that sharing knowledge makes everyone smarter and that collaboration creates better solutions than competition. And they understand that artificial scarcity is just that, it's artificial. And don't worry, the guns that our commenter is worried about are already here. They're being wielded by the people that are trying to protect the billionaire class and the freaky deaky people that shouldn't be roaming around right now. They're protecting billionaires who could literally end world hunger but choose not to. These are the insurance companies that keep life-saving medical research and life-saving procedures behind paywalls of their own accord. The question isn't whether we prefer to have socialism or capitalism. The question is whether we want the cooperation that already works in our technical communities to spread to other areas of our economy, or whether we want to keep using government force to maintain artificial scarcity and concentrated wealth.
So, as someone who has been a part of these communities for the vast majority of my life, and as someone who is trying to build a more sustainable community that my children will one day inherit, I know which future I'm building towards. I mean, that's me personally, and at the very least, that is what the other 10,000 people who are part of my community also feel as well. I love you. I love being able to say that, and I love you all. So, dear commenter, maybe the scary labels aren't the problem. Maybe the problem is that we've been taught over the generations to not only fear, but also hate the very thing that made America possible. Let me remind you all, the Chinese built the railroads and the Black Americans basically built the foundations of this country. We will talk about that in my Future Sinners video because I finally watched that movie. Oh God, I got so much to say and I am so excited for that video as well. So if you are watching this, seriously, let me know what you think. Give me your opinion on this. Let's have a debate in the comments. And yeah, if you made it this far, thank you for watching my entire birthday video. I just wanted to do something short and sweet and not as much effort, at least for me. If you are watching this on the 9th, the day of my birthday, then I am probably at the lake. I'm going to put a picture. I want to go here for my birthday. So that is probably where we're going to go. And yeah, I want you all to consider joining YouTube memberships, consider joining the Patreon, because I want to do Bingus Bongus Wizard Time sessions on the Patreon. And then also once we get to about 5 people that want to be involved in an RPG campaign, I'm going to do an RPG campaign. I'm going to probably do a different system, not D&D, maybe Pathfinder or Starfinder or something like that. But I want to be able to start interacting with you guys, and then I want to start building out my welcome packages for my first patrons and all this other stuff. I'm just so grateful to be here, and I want to start giving back to you guys, even though I only have 10,000 subs. That's still the most subs I've ever had, you know what I mean? So yeah, let me know what you think. Do the YouTube-y things, comment, share, subscribe if you like this video, watch some of my other videos. Please watch my Death Stranding video. That is probably my favorite video that I've made in a while, and I just want more people to watch it. So please, I guess for my birthday, let's get that to 1,000 views. Please, please, please. And then my goal for the end of the year, I want to try to hit 20,000 subs. I think that's a good stretch goal. And yeah, I guess I have my next set of videos already working on it, so I'm excited for those. And let me know what you think in the meantime. Follow me on socials. I'm trying to be more active on Instagram and Blue Sky, so that's where you'll find me. And I will see you guys in the next video. And thank you again for everything. Really, thank you again. Thank you for any preemptive birthday wishes, and I love you all. I hope you all have a good weekend while this video is posted. I hope you all stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.